Hello there. And you might notice something different today. I have a lapel mic, which means, guess what? I can stand up, I can go over here, and I can roam, and you can still hear me. So good. I'm no longer constrained to within this distance of my phone. Hopefully, I'll be like leaning in less awkwardly, being like, I can lean right up to the mic. I can lean up to the camera dramatically, and it won't change the audio. I'll still have to sync it up though. That's what that's for. To sync it up. Because otherwise it'll be really out of sync and it'll look really bad. It might still be out of sync, but I'm gonna try my best. Anyway. What is this? What is this? Yesterday we finished spinning this single, and now I have to ply it. I'm on my lunch break, so we haven't got long, so I probably won't get it done today. The first step to plying is to get this off my spindle. My stepdad kindly built this out of scrap wood. It's got two little hooks in it right there and there. And it's basically been made for this drop spindle. I've used it for my support spindle before, but this is the spindle it was made for. So it works way better with this. There you go. So hooks in like that and like that. And then, oh, bad example. I had it facing the wrong way. It should be like that. There we go. And now, there you go. You see it kind of like is able to rotate around. That means I can do this. Oh, yeah. Maybe. I only have limited tables, but oh, the camera's right there. Okay. There we go. How are we going to do this? I kind of need that off frame in order to... Oh gosh, how am I going to do this? Actually, I can move you. I'm not sure how I'm going to do this. I could probably position you to the back, like that, and that will probably help. Yeah, that works. That kind of works. Further back, and you don't need as much of that in the frame. That kind of works, doesn't it? It's still a little bit awkward. We're really, this, if you could see the size of this table, you would understand my pain. Sort of. It'll do. And what I got here is an idiot undie. So my plan is, what I'll do, you really can't see anything, can you? This isn't going to work in terms of framing or anything. Look, that's not why we're here. We're here to spin. It's Tour de Fleece. We're not here to obsess over framing. No, not at all. There you go. So then I'll just like casually rotate this. And this isn't all what you're meant to do, but you know what? I don't care. It does get caught occasionally. There we go. What's happening is like the hook's getting caught like that. Yeah, you really can't see anything. Oh, I definitely need to move you. Let me move you. There you go. That's much better. You can actually see what's going on. And you can see the absolute disaster that is my workspace. Oh gosh. Can you see like all the mess in my living room? Oh yes, you can. I'm so embarrassed right now. I don't care. Maybe I care a smidge. Maybe I care just a little bit. Anyway, what I was trying to demonstrate is this guy sits right here. This guy sits like this. And I'm just gonna do Once you get it going, it's usually fine, but you need to go a bit speed up. There we go. Nope, not quite. Okay, that needs to be positioned like that more. There you go. Nope, nope. Once I got it, it'll be all right. Just getting it in position. This is not quite. I think I know the issue. I think I need to be further forward. Yes. There we go. Physics. There you go. And I just kind of like gently guide it into position with my other hand. Just transfers it from there, and the string goes along here onto here. Oh, chankers! This is the kind of thing where you either think it's genius or you think this is absurd and the most stupid thing you've ever seen in your life. I love the noise it makes. This is not how you meant to do it. It's just not. I can move it like that. And you get a better view. This is not what people think of. Oh, it's absurd. Absolutely absurd. You know how insane this is? Absolutely insane. That's how insane this is. And not all professional master spinner. No, we don't have any of this here. It's jank. It's jank. And it's great. It's still easier than trying to manually wind it. It's still much easier. I think I need to be... Sorry, excuse me. I must admit, I do feel like something has kind of gone on to my chest a little bit today. Not gonna lie. Like, my chest feels a little bit tight today. I kind of feel like I'm getting a cold, but it's the middle of summer, so I don't know what's going on. Probably hay fever, let's be honest. Probably. I'm kind of prone to like chest infections and things, so probably why. But you don't need to know that. You don't need to care we're spinning in the most absurd way possible. I don't even need to say anything because look at the absurdity. It's working though. It took a bit to get it going, but once we're going, we're okay. I'm probably like wearing out my bobbins weirdly doing this or something. Probably almost certainly, because they're not designed for. Mind you, I suppose a wheel will be pulling from the bobbins and pulling from the lace cake like way faster. You know, like an e-spinner? E-spinners can go pretty quick, can't they? So this probably isn't that strange. Although it's probably, this movement is probably more smooth because it's pulling by the yarn, I'm not driving it via the bobbin itself like this. I kind of need like a belt. You know, a belt and attach it to a crank and whoop. There are ways to automate this further. 100%. Attach a bit of yarn here and like attach it to like a little crank. We can do that. That's something we can do. Maybe not today, and maybe not even this year, but we can do that. Increase the jank. Because I'm only like driving this from a spindle, I don't need it to be like perfectly balanced across the bobbin, although I am trying to vaguely balance it across the bobbin, which is what I'm doing with this hand. That's what I'm trying to do. I recognize this is really loud. It sounds like a sewing machine. And if you think I'm weird for saying that, bear in mind I have a 1920 Singer upstairs, and this is more or less what it sounds like. It's very similar, like mechanical noises, which is very satisfying. Is this just gonna be like ASMR? I'm never gonna do ASMR, let's be real. This is really relaxing. I don't even have anything to talk about today. I booked an orthodontist because as a follow-up to the whole dental thing. And that's annoying and stressful. Like, oh, we found a cancellation. Can you do next week? And I'm like, oh, can I just have a break? Can I have a break, please? That'd be great. I'd need a break right now. No, I'm not allowed a break. I have an orthodontist next week, which I'm not happy about. But it probably won't be nearly as bad as how I suspect. Dental phobia is a thing. I hope that'll be good news, though. Real good news. This is a real, yeah, I get lapel mic and immediately use the trashiest audio ever. This is how we roll. Well, no, this is not how we roll, to be clear. This is not typical at all. I mean, this whole Tour de Fleece is not particularly typical for what I'm doing. Usually there's a lot more editing and things involved. And during Tour de Fleece, I just went, no, because I'm doing daily uploads. So you don't get me cutting out every single That's not going to happen because I don't have time to do that amount of editing every single day. Like once or twice a week, sure. Once a day? No. I can sync up the audio and I can do the... It just occurred to me the absurdity of syncing up this audio. Almost like, why would you bother? What would be the point? It is slowly migrating off the table, though. We can go a bit faster. I just need to stop talking and just let the absurdity play out, I think. Because nothing I can say can possibly compete with this. Hang on, I need. Look at this. Remember, I'm one-handed now. That's just gotten caught. There we go. But you can see. It's gone from here, down here, absurd. Insane. I am seeing, because one of my neighbors is trying to sell the house, and I'm seeing a lot of like cars like drive suspiciously slowly around that house. I've seen at least like 3 or 4 do it this week, and those are just the ones I've seen. So I'm so happy for him because his house has been on the market with purple bricks for like a year, more than a year, let's be honest, probably closer to 2 years at this point. And he hasn't had any interest or anything, and it's just, to be honest, in my opinion, it was kind of priced too high as well. But I mean, that easily happens with purple bricks because they don't like give you a guidance really. Well, they kind of do, but it's rubbish. because they're not like a proper estate agent. So it just hasn't happened for him at all. So he's gone with an actual like real estate agent now. And he's only been with them for like 2 months. And I've seen him have like 3 different viewings, and I've seen like literally like 4 cars like stop outside of his house this week to have a look and go, ooh, isn't that nice? And it's kind of nice too, because I noticed it's like mostly like retirees looking at his house. So it's kind of nice. Have like a nice like elderly couple living across the road, that'd be fine. No issue with that at all. They come back for another look. Just see me in the window like I have no idea what I'm doing. None. I don't think they saw me. It's like the universal, like, I'm not a YouTuber, but like the universal like YouTuber experience is to be like, here's me doing something weird in public. Not in public because I'm sat in my living room, but people can see me through the window. Here's me doing something weird. And other people are going, I'm really embarrassed. I would never record anyone in public. I would never do that. I guess maybe like a show or something, but then I like blur their faces and things. I would do that. I have this technology. I have the skills. I can do that. I don't know if I'd ever go to a yarn show because kind of like my location is weird. I mean, North Wales. It's not really like the bastion of yarn shows. I'm not saying never, but I'm saying that because of my work schedule as well, it'd be really hard for me to do it. I'd need to like book some time off and stuff like that because I can't do like a Saturday one because there's always like engineering works going on with the trains and such. And I don't own a car, so it's kind of a bit like, it's just awkward. I think I'd need to like find a relative or something that was like vaguely interested and like drag them along and get them to drive me. Be like, hello, can you be my chauffeur for the day? I think that's probably the only way I could actually do it. And even then, it would need to be like reasonably local. Because if it's like too far, then it would be just like, nah. So I don't actually think that's ever going to happen. But that would probably be the only scenario in which I would like be recording in public, really. As I say never, but it's highly unlikely. I'm certainly not going to turn into like one of these like weird prank channels where I just go up to people with a camera in their face. I'm never going to do that. Because there's a little thing called respect. And people are often like, oh, but do you have an expectation of privacy in public? I'm like, I don't even think that that's the argument. The argument is respect. That's the argument. There are plenty of things that are perfectly legal to do in public that's really rude and really kind of just awkward and uncomfortable. Like, why would you do that? That just makes you a bad person. It makes you a person that values the views and the content over the person in front of you. And I'm like, I'm totally not in support of that at all. But even so, because I have a garden and stuff, I'll already be recording a garden. Someone will definitely go past at one point, and I'll definitely feel weirdly uncomfortable about like narrating to the camera in a garden with just some person like walking past, like, ooh. Oh no. That's happened to me before as well. I'm pretty sure I was recording in the garden at one point. I can't remember if I chopped it out of the video or not, but I was like mumbling and talking like really quietly because I felt really uncomfortable. Because I'm like, what if the neighbors hear me? And I'm like, I'm on my own property. Like, do the neighbors actually care that much? No. And it's a funny thing. There's something that I've heard called like spotlight syndrome, and it's not actually like a syndrome, but it's like the phenomenon. It's the situation where a person kind of feeling anxiety in the moment will like look at another person and just like be like, oh, they're thinking about me. You know, they'll like sit in the garden and they'll assume the person walking past will be like, oh no, that person thinks I'm really weird. Or even though that person literally doesn't know you exist and does not care. Like that's like spotlight syndrome, or like feeling like, oh, you're gonna walk into like a room, like a pub or something. Oh, everyone's staring at me, and even though they're not. It's not paranoia. It's like a symptom of anxiety. I'm explaining it very poorly. You can Google it. You can Google it. There are good explanations on Google. Well, Google's kind of rubbish, to be fair. There are videos on YouTube about it too. Maybe search on YouTube. I don't know. I don't know how people find information nowadays, to be honest, because Google is just crap now. So I genuinely don't know. My personal like pet like conspiracy theory, and I'm you know, I can change my mind on this. I'm not like dogmatic on it or whatnot. I use that term very loosely. But my personal like pet conspiracy theory is that Google made their search engine worse on purpose to push people to use Gemini. That's like my like personal pet conspiracy theory. I don't know. It might turn out to be true. It might turn out to be total nonsense. I don't know. Google have like, you know, said things like, oh, AI is making it harder to index stuff and stuff like that. And that might be true, but also I am highly suspicious. I mean, Google doesn't really have an invested interest in making their search engine good. They just don't. They have an invested interest in pushing you onto Gemini because then they can charge you a subscription. And there's this big push for AI at the moment, like huge. Like every single person in tech right now, including me, by the way, has been affected by this big push to AI. And sometimes, some days, I just want to get through the day without thinking about about that word, about AI, because it's just, there's so much misinformation going around too. Like, you know, I'm an actual software engineer. I know how these LLMs work. And it's amazing some of the things you hear people say, and you're like, no. The funniest ones are the ones that are like, oh, it's sentient. And I'm like, mate, we have this like a genuine, like not tiny groups of people arguing that AI is sentient. Meanwhile, like decades after science has proven, you know, we're like brain scans and things like that dogs have emotions, and we still have people arguing that dogs don't have emotions. And I'm like, I'm sorry, but you think a dog doesn't have emotions, like an actual living being that's not that distantly related to us? We're all mammals at the end of the day. You find it really far-fetched that dogs don't have emotions and are just like, have no like cognitive ability at all, which if that were true, they wouldn't survive like in the wild at all. You genuinely think that. Meanwhile, you think that AI is sentient. Like, to me, that's just a contradiction in terms. And I don't know if it's the same groups of people saying this, but it just seems a bit strange to me that people would be making that argument, or people would want to make that argument. Let's be clear, it's not. And it's not even anywhere close. Like, knowing how these systems work, it's cool, it's clever. It's not sentient. And also, generative AI, where like people's art is like stolen and things like that, that is not cool. And like the whole like shoving things on the internet and kind of like drowning out human voices, that is also not cool. Like that's kind of where it kind of goes into the realm of like causing real world harm, because you have like people's jobs at stake. But I'd argue that the products that AI is producing just aren't up to snuff. They're not. Even in the coding space, people are like, oh, I can totally vibe code an app. And I'm like, yeah, but your app is garbage. And I want to change this one little thing in 6 months' time. That's going to be 10 times harder because your app isn't built to be maintained properly. That's why engineers build maintainable code. That's why they do it, so that you can make changes later on really easily, as opposed to it being a nightmare. And the problem with AI is AI does not write maintainable code. It can write code that works, Is it maintainable? No. I've noticed it tends to under-engineer some things and like really half-baked stuff, like surprising stuff. Meanwhile, it'll like over-engineer other stuff and just make it weirdly complicated for no reason. And a good engineer knows where to find the balance. And AI just doesn't draw that balance at all. And people are like, oh yeah, but it will get more powerful and it will get more capable. And I'm like, okay, let me take out my crystal ball then. Because we've heard these kind of claims before, like this will happen in the future. Like just because something is like following a certain trajectory does not mean it will happen or will continue. That's not how these things work. I mean, ask anyone in finance. You know, past performance does not demonstrate future returns. But that's kind of the claims that they're making, which I find just strange. And also, I don't necessarily think that even aligns with what we're seeing. You know, people are very excited about Fable and stuff, but we're seeing an interesting situation where real research is coming out saying that actually some developers are less productive with AI. And sometimes it actually makes them slower. And means that the end product gets, there's noise, the end product gets produced more slowly, and companies care about that kind of thing. And also the costs keep going up. And that's not a small thing, because we're not talking like a couple of pounds here and there. Like, yeah, that's true for like an end user, like individual consumer. But for businesses, we're talking like thousands of pounds. There's a huge, huge cost difference. And if that rate continues, then honestly, it might even be cheaper just to get a human to write it for you, which is kind of wild. But yeah, the cost of the computation, and not even to speak of the environmental impact, but the cost of the computation and whatnot, hardly any of these AI companies are making money. And they all kind of have this like weird web of like investments going here, there, and everywhere. If any one of those companies goes into like financial difficulty, the whole web, like there's like a cascading failure across the web. Or it might not cause like multiple companies to fail, but it might cause a financial shock. And, you know, that could have like impacts on the economy, because the S&P 900, for example, S&P 500. What am I on about? Sorry. 500. It's mostly tech. It's mostly tech, and thus mostly AI. So US stocks, which biggest economy in the world, are really heavily impacted by tech. So if there's a shock to the tech industry, then that will affect the US economy, and the US economy affects the global economy. There's like real risk involved here that kind of goes beyond like the tools themselves. It's kind of like the whole meta around these tools, which I feel like kind of isn't being discussed enough. And as I said, dogs absolutely have emotions. They do. Like, talk to any dog owner for like 5 seconds, okay? There's like some degree of anthropomorphizing that happens, but yeah, that does exist. I'm not gonna lie. But also, like, any dog behaviorist will tell you that like one like thing that dog behaviorists like focus on a lot is like anxiety and like limiting anxiety. And there's something called like the canine ladder of aggression. And basically the first rung is anxiety. The whole thing is just anxiety. You could call it the ladder of anxiety. And you know, the end of it is obviously like a bite, right? So that's what you're trying to prevent. You try to make the dog nice and calm and like well, like really steady. The term often uses steady. And so you end up with like a well-mannered dog who, you know, is properly trained, but also is like able to like cope with existence without being reactive. And a large part of that's anxiety. And at the same breath, you want to tell me dogs don't have emotions? Come on now. It's very silly. And yet people are very, very quick to say that a glorified robot is sentient. Okay. I think that says a lot about humanity. I think humans in general are kind of like bad at this. I think humans in general do have a tendency to anthropomorphize things that probably shouldn't be anthropomorphized. I trip over my words a lot, you can tell. But in reality, I think we're kind of bad at like sort of seeing intelligence where it exists. You know, people talk about like animals are dumb, and then meanwhile you have like birds like solving puzzles and all this crazy stuff, and it's like, come on. Sometimes I wish people would just like learn a little bit more about the nature around them. And I don't really blame like individuals or anything like that. I think there's like some general like issues in like the education system where we focus so much on like Latin names and facts, and we don't kind of like look at, here's like the broader picture. I don't know, here are some birds solving a problem. Isn't that cool? And I get it, it's because we don't have time in the education system because everything is like so high pressure. But maybe that in itself is a problem. Things have changed. Things have changed recently. I've noticed there's a big push to like focus on like a lot of time biology involves like field classes and stuff like that now, which is kind of cool. I think that's good, kind of like holds the students' interest a lot more. Because when you're dealing with kids, it can be hard to like hold their interest. That's a postman. It really made me jump. It must sound surprising that I can see a window out into the street and yeah, I can't see the postman. But that's because there's like a porch, so I can't see past the porch and my door's like the other side, so that's why. And I think we're nearly done. And you no longer have to suffer through this dreadful. I think it's relaxing. No one's gonna watch this. If you have watched it, tell me. And I'll be like, did you use headphones? Tell me, and tell me if you wore headphones. There you go. You know, I can probably actually keep that attached and it'll be fine. And then next time we'll be ready for flying. And it'll be so cool. But I can't actually see. Yeah, okay. And now I can see. There we go. But I think we're done now because we got it. It's been half an hour and I need to get back to work. But thank you. I don't think any of you will have watched that. It's fine. Goodbye. And that is the end of the video. And now we've come to the section that I call the Webring. And it's an idea borrowed from the days of Netscape, the time before Google, early internet, where people would link to each other. They'd link to the things that they thought were cool and interesting. And you didn't rely on algorithms to find other people. You went round all these different links and you looked through and you surfed the internet for cool things. Well, I give you in the description a list of cool channels that you should check out. And I do this at the end of every single video. I include another channel that you should go check out. Etienne. The Sunshine. I've just started watching this video. I haven't finished it yet. But I've watched some of his other videos, which YouTube isn't showing for some reason. You can't rely on the red bar. Honestly, you can't. 9 times out of 10, it doesn't show up for me. But it does not matter. Because his videos are gorgeous. He has a cat called Velma. A cat called Velma. Can you imagine something so perfect? And look at his dog. Beautiful. Beautiful. Look at his dog. Beautiful. Some dogs are like this with yarn. They're just like kind of obsessed and they love just like the feel of yarn and all this sort of stuff. I had a Labrador who's absolutely obsessed with like woolen, like particularly blankets that I had made or Mum had made or something like that. He just really, really liked them. He liked blankets anyway. He was kind of obsessed. But he especially loved handmade blankets. Oh, he loved them so much. He absolutely would just go around with a sock on his head and he'd be well chuffed. And he liked wearing stuff as well. I've never known a dog, particularly a Labrador, they're quite big, that likes wearing things. You know, we'd put stuff on him as a joke and he'd be like stressing around like, yeah, this is cool. I mean, it used to be a job of getting off him. He liked scarves. He really liked scarves. Yeah. He's an old boy. He really liked his scarves. Probably kept him nice and warm because, you know, his fur and stuff like that. As he was getting older, sure, he felt the cold a bit more. But yeah, this reminds me a little bit. His dog, in terms of nature, I would say, not in terms of breed at all because they're completely different. But in terms of nature, it does remind me of my old Labrador quite a bit. A very similar, lovely nature. You only get that kind of nature out of a dog if you really look after them and really appreciate them, because they can be sensitive souls, can dogs. You know, and my two are basket cases, so what that says about me, I have no idea. But my point being, his channel is gorgeous, and he has like this lovely narration where it's just like, it's really calming, really chill, and he always seems like really enthusiastic in everything he does. I mean, look at this darning. I love darning, okay? I love darning. But look at this darning. Look how pretty. Gorgeous. I love darning. It's just, wow. Beautiful. Beautiful! I love darning. Darning is just gorgeous. Because I love darning socks. I like doing Swiss darning. I find it really satisfying. I say this like I'm not the kind of person that has a cupboard full of mending projects that they haven't done yet. Including darning. I should get on that. After Tour de Fleece. Yes, after Tour de Fleece. Totally. We'll get there. I'll totally tackle that pile and it won't just sit there forever. Uh-huh. I think it's time for you to leave and to go to this channel. And for now, goodbye.